let's just quickly define the old reality is the fear-based reality that is now complete. That the new reality is love-based. Take a circle, and if you cut the circle into 4 quadrants, and if you cut each quadrant into 8, you will get 32 aspects. One quadrant, which is very easily you, the doer. So if I've got this quadrant, which is doing, then this quadrant is the arc opposite. What is the opposite of doing? Being. Right, then we go to the other 2. We've got you, the giver, and you, the receiver.
Greetings, seekers of ancient wisdom. I am so glad that you guys are here today. We are back with our favorite guest, Myron Krost, and we are talking stuff that's relevant for your evolution. We're leading on from the last talk where we spoke about manifestation, and today we're talking about understanding the aspects of yourself and mastering the manifestation and how to use that in your practical daily life. Myron, we're so happy that you're here. Welcome to the show.
Deepak, thank you so much. Always great to be with you on these podcasts. I think it's been we've been doing this now for all the way through winter, and it's a beautiful summer's day. We're in December 17th, so kind of we're looking at the end of the coming into our season. Builders' holidays begun. Things are getting a little bit calmer in Johannesburg, and I'm sure getting a bit less calm down on the coast. So it's wonderful to be on the show with you, and I've been watching all your podcasts, and they've been really amazing. Well done for doing what you're doing, and also it's been awesome to watch your new comedy aspects. And I really like that, the way that you've been getting out there and using comedy and tongue-in-cheek to kind of get these concepts across, That last conversation you put out there was where you had that kind of time machine, or it wasn't really a time machine, it was like and then it was like, and I really appreciated it, like the place of contemplation. There you were in the bathroom, and we've spoken about that the bathroom or the toilet is the place of where you probably find your spirituality, So I love that. I love the tongue in cheek, and it's so much easier for people to laugh and then see, wow, there's actually something very real underneath all of this. So well done. Taps for you.
Yes, thank you. So that is something we can talk about maybe in a future episode, but we are trying to get the spiritual awakening happening, but using comedy, tongue-in-cheek, and just being a little bit more fun, because the spiritual community is quite serious. Hey, Myron, I mean, maybe that's something we can start on. Like, everyone is so serious, and it's like,
Oh, it's serious, because like on this journey, you've jumped out of your world, and you're on this journey, and you maybe read like the Celestial Prophecy, and you've learned about synchronicity, or you've read this book or that book, and all of a sudden there's all this thing happening, and yes, spirituality is serious, but humor. If you look at the Dalai Lama, I have never met the Dalai Lama, but I've had the privilege to be in his space a couple of times, and we visited South Africa, and the Dalai Lama has this childlike laughter about him. If you look at interviews, he's always laughing, and he's not serious. But his wisdom and insight is just spot on. So often the seriousness is just not what's needed, and what's really needed is just a light-hearted approach to coming into one spirituality, coming into a new way of living on this rock. Because there's a reason our friends out there and our viewers have chosen this new way of living, because they have seen through the old. The old is breaking up, and they've seen through the old, and they realize that there's something wrong with their conventional religion. There's something wrong with the conventional way they're living, and they're now starting to look out there and see what's going on. So they're serious about their journey. So yes, be serious about your journey, but you don't have to be. You don't have to go and become this extremely serious human being. Laughter and humor and tongue-in-cheek is a great way to to open up the doors of perception.
So this is maybe a good segue to get into our topic of the day. So is laughter and comedy like an aspect of yourself? Is
So let's maybe we've got viewers who've been watching. So you might grab this podcast, and this might be the first one you've seen, and it's come across you, and then you can watch it, and it will work. And then you can go back and you can go see the past podcast. There's four, and there's a America Bar podcast, and then there's three that then we go into the masters, and there's three that lead you through that manifestation. And I think the last podcast we already touched on practical ways of living within the new reality. And we're going to talk about all of that today. So when we talk about laughter and joy, I wouldn't say that's an aspect. I would say that it's probably within all the aspects. So before we dive in, maybe we should just give a little summary for people who haven't necessarily watched the other podcasts and they know where to fit it in. And for those of you who've been following, and there's one particular gentleman who's been on the journey with me for a while, and we tend to do, he says, hey, Myron, when can I get the next podcast? And I'm saying, aha, this was like 2 days ago. I'm meeting with Deepak. We're getting it out there. This is for you. And it's quite interesting because I've got one guy who's on the journey, and as he needs the next, we're doing our podcast so he can kind of take it in. And then obviously it's for everyone. So let's give you a bit of a summary. If you don't know, my name is Myron, and I am the founder of The Green Side, and I've been involved in spirituality and metaphysics since I was 19. I'm certainly a metaphysicist. I like to call myself an esoterrorist, not an esotericist, because when I was 30, 31, I went through a bodhisattva. We do have a podcast on bodhisattva. I went through a bodhisattva, which is all about a spiritual emergency. That led me to a place where I was introduced to a set of beings that called themselves the Masters, and they explained to me via the teacher that I had found at the time. Her name is Robin, and she hooked me up with this new frequency and this new communication, and I was hooked up to this master frequency and to these beings that actually call themselves the Masters, and they explained to us that they are the original support of humans living life in the love reality, and they're back. We've been in a dark place for many thousands of years because we chose to be there, and we've chosen to go back into the light and go back into the new love reality, and that is really what the Aquarian age is all about. And I tapped into this, and that was a long time ago. I was a young man. I'm 54. I'm not an old man, but I'm an older man with lots of gray. But I was a younger man. I was like 31 years old, and I tapped into this master frequency. And with that, I spent 5 years working that and working with people in a group. I first went through an activation where I activated into my new reality body, a light body that would be available to support me living in a new reality, which was going to come sometime in the future. I stepped into the new reality when I was much younger, and I've been living there ever since. And there were 32 of us who were the founding members, who were the founding teachers of this new teaching. And each one of us had a job, and my job was to get out there and build new reality businesses. So I've done that twice. I first built a business that, I worked within my family business, and I practiced manifestation versus creation, because co-creation is a duality reality conversation, but manifestation is a polarity reality conversation. And we were guided on moving from a duality reality to a polarity reality, moving from a fear-based reality to a love-based reality. And with that, I then closed that business when I opened up the Green Side, and I set out to create my second new reality business. It was prophesied to us 20 years ago that there will be pandemics and there will be an age when people will desperately need a new type of health shop. And we opened that new type of health shop, and that's called the Green Side, and it's beautiful. It's master inspired, and for those of you, most of the people out there in the Green Side wouldn't really know that underlying the entire everything that we do at Canada Africa, which is our holding company, and the Green Side, where we've got 4 stores and we're opening a 5th store in March. Everything we do is based on this new reality frequency that we talk about, the rider and the horse. The rider is a part of ourselves that's not limited by space and time. We are the horse that we wake up every day. I wake up in the horse. I got up a bit late today. It was like 7:30. It was like, oh, let me sleep a bit longer. And it's 2:45. I'm sure I've got a meeting. Oh, yes, the rider set this up. I've got something at 8 o'clock, so I had to quickly get up and get a cup of tea. I've got my watermelon juice over here for sustenance, and I'm ready. And the rider is, as I am the host, I'm waking up and I'm having this conversation. The rider has planted all this. The rider knew like what was going to be happening today. So the rider planted within my subconscious, inner conscious, subconscious consciousness. The rider planted through my dreaming exactly what needed to happen. So today when I sit with Deepak, I can get the right information out because you're watching this now. And the reason why you're watching this is you dreamt this last night or the night before. And that got you to find this video. You didn't just find this podcast by accident. You're watching this because your rider needs you to wake up. And you are here learning how to wake up. And we will help you wake up. And we'll do it with humor. And we'll do it with love. And we'll do it with a seriousness that isn't really serious. And that's what's so beautiful about this new reality. So basically, we then have spoken about the master frequency and what it's about. And we spoke about the rider and the horse. We've spoken about that. The rider is you without the limitations. You're the horse. Most of you think you're starting your spiritual journey. You think that you are the rider, but you're not. You're not. You're not the rider. You're the horse. That's all you are. And now you're off the hook. Wow, I'm off the hook. If I'm the horse, what is my job? Be a good horse and connect with the rider. And then the rider is going to help you. And the rider's here for a reason. You don't even know what the reason is. Like I'm living my life purpose now, and I'm doing exactly what I can do. And I'm the only one on the planet who could do what this green side story. And we're going to literally take it everywhere. But it's what I'm just dying to do. I didn't plan it. I didn't know I was going to do it, but the rider had this in the plan. So you are watching this because one day you are going to be the one who does what you can only do on the planet. And that is unique for you. And the rider is here for a reason. You don't know why you have carnated. You don't know why you in your bodysuit on the planet, but you're here and you're watching this and you're coming awake. And today we've spoken about coming into the new reality, connecting with the master frequency. And if any of you need or have this feeling that, wow, I want to go on this journey, you then contact Deepak or myself and we will hook you up. We're not so hard to find. We're all over social media. And we'll hook you up and we'll connect you with a master frequency. And you also will be able to ring through the masters. And that's something that you'll be able to do with time as well. So once you start this journey and you start this master frequency journey and you start to work with the rider and the horse and you realize that you are now not going to use your head, your heart, and your gut. You're not going to use those three because most of you out there are either using your head to analyze your way through a problem or you are using your heart to feel your way through a problem. Or you're using let's show you my gut once more. It's not as a small gut. Or you're using your gut to intuit. The gut's where it's connected. You know, your gut is connected to your umbilical cord. Your gut is the second brain. That umbilical cord is that silver thread that keeps you in this dimension. That's not here anymore, but it is here. Of course it's here. That umbilical cord is not gone. That's why the minute you die and you're gone, you'll see how quickly that silver thread is gone. And boom, you're in a different dimension. And you cannot get into this third dimension. You can't even access the fourth dimension unless you're stuck in the fourth dimension. That we'll do in another podcast. But for this podcast, we're talking about, so you've come awake and you've realized you're the horse. And you know there's a new reality. And we've also spoken about that. The old reality, the old fear-based reality is completed. We've spoken about the polarity verse works with a frequency that sets off an upward spiral and sets off a downward spiral. And that frequency is called the neutral. And when we problem solve in the new reality, we don't look at the spirals. We don't look is it going up and is it called love? Is it going down and it's called fear? We look at the neutral. And then when we look at the neutral, it shows us. The neutral will determine which is love and which is fear. And sometimes the downward spiral is love and the upward spiral is fear. And just sometimes in life, you got to do what your brain would say, no, that's the wrong route. But no, if you are analyzing, if you are looking at life from in the new reality, we do not look at, we don't get caught up on love and fear. We get caught up on what is the neutral. And then we talk about an upward spiral that flows down and a downward spiral that flows up. And this is very relevant as we move into today's subject. So we've covered all of this before. And people have been working with me, watching these podcasts and going from step to step to step. And they've learned, and if you're not sure, go back and watch the podcast before this, because today's podcast is a summary of the last podcast. And today's podcast is practical. It's practical to help you out there live your life in the new reality. And why in the new reality? Because you have come awake and you've stepped into your spirituality. You are learning that there is this new way of living, and you're starting to understand that this thing's pretty real that Myron's talking about. And there's a new reality. And the new reality does not work the same way as the old reality. And in the old reality, ideology, religions, co-creation, where you co-create, where if you do something, the needy God, the needy spirit, the needy universe is going to help you back. It's going to help you with co-creating. But it relies on you to first put your hand in the glove, or for you to do something, where in the new reality, there's no co-creation, because there's no God self outside of, there's no Godhead outside of self. The Godhead is inside self. And that's where you find it. It's in the inner you. But we are limited. Just like that horse is limited. The horse is a beautiful creature. It can gallop, it can canter, but it doesn't have the intellect, and it doesn't have the ability to pick up a pen and paper and write a simple letter. It can't sing a song or write poetry. It just isn't that kind of a being. A horse is designed to do something. And I recently went to the area of Kaapstad in South Africa, where there are the wild horses. And I saw wild horses, and it was really amazing. I actually went horse riding for the first time in 20 years. And it was like, wow, I really started to understand again the rider and the horse. So the rider and the horse is very important for this understanding. Then we understand that you come awake and you activate into a new body. And then what you do is you go around the sun. You go around the sun as a body, and we spoke about that last time. You're a body, and you are rotating, and you are spinning. So you're spinning and you're going around, and as long as you keep your spin right, you're fine. And you know that's done through your kind of your opposites, and that's what we're going to move in today. Because if we take a step back and if we see ourselves as a body, and that's the whole thing about the master frequency and the new reality conversation. We see ourselves as a body. And as a body, what are the other bodies? Well, you know, the planet's a body. And we're going around the sun. And the sun is the center of everything. The sun is the source of everything. The source of love and the source of light and the source of life. And you're going around this as a planet, and you're going around in 365 days, something like that. And you also, and that gives you your summer and your winter. And you also are spinning, and you got a certain spin. And as long as you're on track, that spin's okay. And if your spin's okay that way, as you move that way, then you stay in orbit. But what happens when you wobble? And when your spin, this spin starts to, instead of spinning in a nice format, you spin out of control. You jump orbit, and you jump into another orbit, and that's when you collide. And that's when stuff happens, and you crash. And our job here as guiders of people on the journey, I'm here to explain to you You don't need the gurus. You don't need the priests, the imams, the rabbis. You need you. You need to come awake. You need to understand that we're moving into a new reality that's love-based, and that everything that you need is within yourself. And it's not outside of self. And we are here to help show you your journey to self. And that is what today's talk is about. So now we understand we've got how do we keep that spin right? How do we know where to focus? And that is what today's conversation is about. How do we know where to focus? And we've spoken about once you move into the new reality, you see yourself as a planet, and we have spoken about that the first things we need to do is take care of our needs. Because as the horse, we have needs. And the rider will make sure your needs are taken care of. And your need is a need for shelter, the need for love, the need for food, the simple needs. Because if the horse doesn't have companionship, the horse will be extremely lonely horse. If the horse doesn't have the right food, the horse will be a hungry horse. The horse needs all of these things to be a great, successful horse. And these are needs. And we got to verbalize. We have to talk it aloud. Masters, be with me. Masters, I need help with my needs. I don't have enough money to cover my rent or my bond. Let us start with that. Help me find work that can do that. Masters, I've got the money. Thank you. It's working. I don't have companionship. I feel so alone. Help me find some companionship. And this conversation that you do verbally between yourself and your rider is so vital, so that the rider can help take care of your needs. Then once you've practiced and you got your needs taken care of, and you can see it works, and you can see that things are changing in your life, then you can see, wow, this thing actually works. And there are people right now who are coming into this consciousness who are changing their life because this thing actually works. Because what we are talking about is 100% supported by the new reality, where things that you might have learned 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, used to work, but it doesn't work anymore because it's not supported by the new reality. The new reality is the new reality, and it does not run the same way, and it's not what you think is what it is. So then we move over to once I have my needs met, but now I want more. So we have to find out, is it here for me? Is it here for me? Like, you may want to jump out of an airplane and be a paraglider, but it might not be it's not here for me to jump out of airplanes. Like, I look at an airplane and I think about me parachuting. Dude, it's not going to happen. It's not here for me. You know, it's not here for me to drive a red car all the time, because red cars are just, it brings out a part of me that might create road rage. So you got to know what's not here for me, what's not here for you. And once you work out what's here for you, then you can find, okay, this is here for me. It's here for me to travel if I wanted to travel. Okay, cool. It's not here for me to travel first class. That's not what I'm here to do. But it is here for me to travel. But it's here for me to sleep in an amazing bed. So when I get to that country that I've traveled in, I'll travel cattle class. I'll travel economy. I'll get to that country. But then I will stay in a lovely 4-star hotel because it's here for me. And I will be able to find a 4-star hotel or a 5-star hotel at the price of a 2 to 3-star hotel because I have secret support. I have the masters. I have this frequency. I know what's here for me. And if it's here for me, it's here for me. Nothing and nobody can get in between what is here for you. And then you get your wants taken care of. So first we get our needs taken care of. Then once we get the needs are easy because, you know, your masters and the rider needs you to be happy. So they just need to know what to do. So needs are easy. Wants are more difficult because we are difficult characters as humans. And we might want things, we might obsess about something that is never going to be. It's just never going to be, but we don't stop obsessing. We might think that I'm going to be a spiritual this or a spiritual that. I'm going to learn these things, and it's not there for you. It's not there for you to become this. You've bought a course and you've learned this course, and you're an iridologist, or you've done some sort of a 1-year course or a 3-month course, and you think this is my new career, but it never was there for you. You just went out there and used your mind to do something, or you used your heart. It feels so nice when I attend a meditation session and it feels so nice. I want to be the teacher now, but it's not there for you. But you're still doing it. Okay, so you're doing it, but you're not doing well at it. You might do it well, but it's not there for you. You're making no money. You're living in a poverty consciousness. So that's step number 1. Right, now we get that out the way. Let's take it 2 minutes. I just want to put my battery on, and then we're going to jump into today's topic, both hands, which is the aspects. Give me 2 seconds.
So that was a great summary that Myron gave us of almost all the podcasts that we've done, the spiritual awakening, activating his body, connecting with the masters, talking with the masters, and then the whole manifestation, right? About how to manifest. First addressing your needs, getting those met, and then asking about your wants. Is it here for me in this lifetime? Is it here for me in this incarnation? Like maybe I want to drive a fancy car as well, but it might not be here for me. And I think that's what Myron was talking about. So I'm really excited and eagerly waiting to get into the real crux of today's talk, which is understanding the aspects of ourself. And what Myron was alluding to was it's very important to give all aspects of yourself equal attention during the week so that they all feel that they are recognized, respected, and part of your whole being. So the aspects of ourself, this is the first time I knew I had 32 aspects, but Myron's going to make it a bit simpler for us and more practical, because this is a practical podcast that we're having today. So Myron, I just sort of set the tone, gave a summary.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And it's so amazing because, Deepak and I have been, Deepak is a highly spiritual gentleman, and he's been on his path for many years. And, maybe five years ago or so, was it 5 years, 4 years ago, you realized that you wanted to change your life and jump out of corporate and start your journey. And I met Deepak maybe 2 years ago, and in the last 6 months, we've been working together as well on the master frequency. And I've been watching Deepak going through his journey into the new reality. And the nice thing about this master frequency is you come awake and you connect with you. It's not like I'm here to support, but I'm not the one who's plugging you in. You don't need me, because if I was needed for people to come into the new frequency and come awake, then it's just like, what's the difference? Then you're using someone outside of self. So you can't come awake outside of self. You can only come awake, you can only move in the new reality with self. And that's been very exciting. So I guess also it's because we work together, Deepak kind of taps into it and he asks the right questions. And that's why I've chosen to and it wasn't necessarily I've chosen, the riders chose. And then me as the horse, my job is to just to know what's going on and to jump in. So right now we're gonna start with understanding aspects. And when you talk to me, and I've been talking about these things for many years, I try to make it as simple as possible for people. And the first thing I explain to people that basically we've got two major headings for living life in the new reality. So let's just quickly define. The old reality is the fear-based reality that is now complete. And most of us agree on the fact that the new reality is love-based. And I'm talking slower now because everything before was summary. So I had my summary voice on, and actually that was an aspect of me. Within my doingness space, there is a part of me that maybe 1/8, and we'll talk about that is available to do this work. And even within that 1/8, there are different aspects. And you can even hear my voice has changed, my tonal has changed, where before I was in summary land, so I was talking quickly to help get it across, but now I'm not in summary land. Now I'm basically in the crux of today's talk. So there's a different aspect that's taken over within one aspect. So I like to talk about that as the Nachi. Before we talk about the Nachi, we talk about the yellow brick road. And the yellow brick road is that road that takes you from each step to the next step. And the yellow brick road is a wavy road that takes you all over the place. It's like it could be going up on a ladder. It could be coming down on a snake, so you can go back up on another ladder. So you can come back down on another snake and go back up on another ladder. And you on the yellow brick road, you never know where the steps are going to take you 2 steps down, because you have to live life, because we live in a world of multiple probabilities. And when you live in the new reality, those multiple probabilities, those multiple paths are splitting all the time. And therefore, every time it splits and splits and splits, you are splitting. But the reality you're in is the reality you find yourself in consciously. And that is very important. So the yellow brick road is this road that you take. And how do you know when it's time to move? Because it's yellow. And all the other steps are gray. And there's only one step that's yellow, and it's beautiful. And you see, aha, that's the yellow stuff. You have the aha moment. So the yellow brick road is very important. Now, we talk about the aspects. Now, when we talk about aspects, Deepak talks about 32. Why 32? Well, if you take a circle, and if you cut the circle into 4 quadrants, and if you cut each quadrant into 8, you will get 32 aspects. And it's very simple. And it's basically, it's one of the sacred numbers in Kabbalah. It's a number that basically, you take a circle, you can cut into 32 slices. It's like a Nachi. And if you open up that Nachi, you'll see the Nachi is clearly in 4 quadrants. And it's literally, and you take each little scaphe, and then one little scaphe just fits so beautifully into the rest of the scapes, into this flower of life. That's a Nachi. And in each scaphe of the Nachi are lots of little, have you ever peeled a Nachi or peeled an orange, and then you meticulously open it up, and you then look at these beautiful cells. And if you probably count those cells, it would be interesting, because if you take open the Nachi and slice it open with a blade and not disturb, there's a little cell, and in that cell is juice. That juice is not, there's not a Nachi full of juice, because it would all merge together, and the chance of keeping the juice in the Nachi. But so in every little Nachi, in every little orange, there's these scapes. And in every little scaphe, and if you're watching some overseas, scaphe is an Afrikaans word for a piece. There's a little piece of that Nachi. And in every little piece, there are lots of multiple small little cells. And cells that you can see. And it's a cell, like a cell, and inside that cell is juice. And you bite the Nachi and the cells explode. So we're going to use that as an analogy. It helps us understand. So now, very simply, what are the 4 quadrants? So we've got 1 quadrant, which is very easily you, the doer. You, the doer, you're doing. So right now, even though I'm talking about my favorite subject, which is metaphysics, new reality, master frequency, I'm not being, I am doing. So I'm still doing. So the doing is, so that would be 2 quadrants. And if you cut that in half, you're going to get 2 quadrants of 8 each. And that's how we get the 32 quadrants, because you got 4 quadrants, and in each quadrant you got 8. So and as you see, there's a perfect opposite. So if I've got this quadrant, which is doing, then this quadrant is the arc opposite. What is the opposite of doing? Being. So being and doing are opposites. Right, then we go to the other 2, the other 16, and we've got you, the giver, and you, the receiver. So we got these 4 quadrants. One quadrant is you, the doer, and one quadrant is you, the being. Third quadrant is you, the receiver, and fourth quadrant is you, the giver. And this is my language. Some of the stuff I'm teaching you guys is stuff that was given down to us by Robin many years ago when I did this whole program, and it was her language. And then other parts of it is my understanding, how I've plugged it in. And yes, Robin spoke about the aspects, and all of these teaching, or the original teaching that I got taught, that I then mastered. And for 5 years, I worked with people. When I went out, and my job was to build a new reality business, which I've done twice. And now I'm starting to work with people again, but in a different way, because the new reality has begun, and so many of you have started your journey, and you need that help. You need someone to just push you along the way and say, it's okay. You don't have to carry on doing what you're doing. It's not getting you a result. Let's give you a new way. Let's show you how to awaken, and let's show you how to manifest this glorious life. You have such an opportunity in front of you to live a life that's gilded. So few of us on the planet have a gilded life. So few of us, even if you're wealthy, you're not gilded. You're wealthy, but you're miserable. Or you're poor and you're miserable. Or you're spiritual, but you're miserable. Or you're physical, but you're miserable. Misery, because you just can't be happy. And that is not a way to live. Happiness and joy, regardless of what happens today, it's still a happy day. Because the sun got up, and you have an opportunity to feel. And you have an opportunity to love. And you have an opportunity to be loved. And you have an opportunity to fight and to be fought with. Because if you can love and be loved, then also you must fight and be fought with. It has to have that opposite. So when you step out and your partner's at you, you're like, yay! I feel so amazing that you're shouting at me. What do you mean? I'm shouting at you. You're supposed to be angry. No, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Thank you for shouting at me. What an amazing day. And you might say, Myron, that's not real. Of course it's real. But what is real? And we'll talk about that. We got real, surreal, and surreal. What is real? Real is what the real is the new reality. And that's actually the so real. S-O space real. What I'm talking about now is so real. It's so real that it's crazy. The real isn't real. The real is fake. Where you wake up and your partner's shouting at you because they're just having a bad morning, and you are supposed to shout back, because that's how we create dissent in our families. We don't support and accept. We don't say, okay, my partner's having a bad morning. Give them a space. Here's a nice cup of tea. Here's a hug. Here's another hug. We don't do that. Because that's real. It's real. No, it's not real. It's fake. So real is what I'm talking about. And the surreal is where most of you guys are. You're in this spiritual realm that you are still working with this old ideology that you are hacking and hacking and hacking and hacking. You are praying to God outside of self, but your life doesn't change. And you are talking about the same conversation. You're pulling up information from the ancients that don't apply now. We don't need more information from 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 300 years ago, 200 years ago, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 10 years ago. We need information now. If you want to start being a new reality, prophet, wizard, whatever you want to be, It's the information that's now, information that wasn't here before. That is what we're looking for. So the aspects of self is so important, because most of us are either one aspect or another aspect. So either you're in your spiritual, and you're so spiritual that your physical gets neglected. Your physicality, you get thin or you get fat because you're eating too much or you're eating too little. You are so spiritual. You are reading every book. You are attending lectures. You are going to sweat lodges. You are going to seances. You are going to lectures. You're watching podcasts, and it's spiritual, spiritual, spiritual. And all you can talk about is spirituality. But where's your physicality? Your physicality is diminished because you're giving no energy to your physical. You're giving no energy to earning money in your physical. You're giving no energy to eating beautifully and taking care of your physical. So that is the old way. You either are spiritual, which is in a being space, or physical, which will be in a doing space. So if you live your life with the mind, the heart, and the gut, then you're in the old reality where you're highly spiritual, but not physical. Or you're so physical, you're so focused on your work, you're so focused on what's empirical. Like if someone can't show you the empirical proof of God, you can't feel it, because you can't find God anywhere besides inside your heart. You know? Let's just face that. You either are with God or you're not. And you either know what God is, which is this beautiful frequency that allows us to be on the rock, or you're not. So you can't, so people are looking for, I need evidence. Like, I mean, aliens, like, you know, people are coming awake. Yeah, there must be aliens out there. You know, that seems to be normal. You know what I'm saying? That seems to be normal. Like, it's like there are aliens out there. It's like, I don't see the aliens, but I can believe there's aliens. And then I can start to learn about the ultra-terrestrials and the extraterrestrials, and I can learn about ancient aliens and light seed. I can start to say, wow, this isn't evidence like I was looking for. It's not empirical, but there is this ancient alien conversation that talks about aliens, you know, that an alien isn't what we think an alien is. So it's the same thing. It's like you can't find these. So if you are, everything's physical, you can't find your spirituality that way. So when you work with the master frequency, we don't want, you can't put your energy, all of your energy, you've got all 32 aspects. And the reason why I've given them broad-based, that it's you the doer, you the being, you the receiver, and you the giver, it's so much easier. And then if you've got a circle in the middle, like that, and then from your, that's you. That's what I'm saying, you. The circle in the middle is that, it's like the sunflower with a beautiful middle, and then you got the petals coming around like a lotus flower, you know, lotus flower, sunflower. And that's you. And then you got you, the doer, you, the receiver, you, the giver, you, the, so you the doer, you the being, you the receiver, and you the giver. And if you look where they situated it, I'm not mapping it out for you. You can map it out for yourself, and you can play around and say, if this is doing, that must be being. So what is this? You know, because it's what is it bordering, and then it's broad based. But now we can make it much more less broad based. So now we're going to bring it down.
So let me ask some questions, Myron, if you don't mind, just to clarify in my head. Because, okay, so the giving and receiving, I think is quite easy for me to comprehend. So giving is when I'm giving my time or energy or money to something, and receiving is where I'm receiving someone else's energy or time or something. So that's easy for me to understand. But this being and doing seems like there's a bit of a gray area that I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so doing, You mentioned doing is like doing something physical or doing the work. But what is sleeping then?
Okay, so sleeping would be being, meditating would be being. In most of our world, your spirituality would be your being, and your physicality would be your doing. But we have been told by the masters we mustn't use any language that has connotations attached to it. So we don't really, when we do this conversation, anyone who knows me and they work with me, I never use a language that is loaded. And if we use the word spirituality, it's so loaded, and it's loaded. So if we use the word Christ consciousness to talk about coming awake, it's so loaded. If we use the word ascension, it's so loaded. If we use the word activation, it's not loaded. We are activating. So there's loaded language and there's not loaded language. So I have chosen a way to help people understand this that isn't loaded. So let's just go into doing. And let's say we got 8 quadrants in each doing. So one quadrant, and it doesn't have to be, this is your story, and my story is my story, and your story is your story. You're going to take this and say, okay, well, I've got 32 aspects, only 8, 1/4 is me, the doing guy. But I tend to spend, of my 24 hours a day, I tend to spend about a lot of time doing. And you might be spending too much time every week doing. When it comes to your Saturday and Sunday, instead of taking time to be, which is lying on the couch and watching TV or taking your dog for a walk or spending time with your partner, what are you doing? I'm doing stuff. I'm going to go to the shops because I want to go buy something for Christmas, or I'm going to go to the shop because I want to buy some groceries, or I want to go to this art gallery because I want to go see this thing. So all doing doesn't have to be work. Work is work to you get work to make a living, and you get the work of the soul. So the work of the soul is like painting. The work of the soul is doing, going for a contemplative walk and staring, just going out into nature, taking a drive into nature and going for a walk. That is work of the soul, but it's still doing. You're still doing. So we start with 1 of 8 is your job, whatever your job is. And maybe in your case, everything and I often, when I mentor people on setting themselves free, I explain to people, you need at least 3 aspects. If you're going to really be free, you're going to get, like, within your job, you should have like three aspects. So in those 8, you could have 3 out of 8, which are all to do with earning money. And one could be something that is an annuity driven. Maybe you're buying blockchain, Bitcoin, and you're buying gold coin, and you watch whatever you're doing. And another one could be an actual job where you've got where you've been paid for your time and you're swapping time for money. And the third one might be where you're just doing something you don't like doing it, but it's the easiest way to cover the bills. So I often coach people. The first step in financial freedom is learning how to make 32,000 Rand a month, because it's 12, 12, and 12. And you start off with your first 12,000. That's basically going to be one of your aspects that is going to help you give time for money. And the quickest, easiest way to make your 12,000 Rand without too much mind, just by showing up for a month, you get 12 grand. Then you get another aspect, your second aspect, and that might be something that is like, you have to slowly grow it. So it's not your passion project. It's something that you found to do. It might be an extra job you do after hours that will eventually lead to annuities. And then the third aspect is something that is your passion project. And you might never make money out of it, but it's going to keep you occupied. And maybe as you grow the other 2 aspects, and the first 12,000 Rand becomes 24,000 Rand, and the second 12,000 Rand becomes 15,000 Rand or 20,000 Rand, and your third might only be at 12,000 Rand. But as it all grows together, that all, so when we break down doing, when we break down doing, the first thing we do when we break down doing, the first thing we do is we differentiate the doing what's going to help us with our needs, because we all have a need, and we need support the need. So a certain amount of doing has to do with earning an income. And a lot of us come awake with our spiritual awakening, and then we don't want to work for income. And then because we don't want to work for income, we like, where are you gonna get your income? Well, like, God will provide. You know, but God provides you with a job. That's what God's providing you. God gives you the job to make money. You can't stay at home and not work and think God's going to provide, because God's not going to provide, and your bond's not going to get paid, your rent's not going to get paid, and you're going to get evicted, and you're going to be out on the street. And you're going to be back at your mother's house, okay? And then you'll be back at your mother's house as a 40-year-old who, like, came undone, you know, because you waited for God to provide, you know. God will provide through you. So within those 8 aspects of doing, you can use as many of them as you like for earning a buck. But if you use all 8, then what's left? What's left? Because there's you, remember, there's you, the receiver, and there's you, the giver. What's left for you? So maybe like going to see a movie, like taking time out of your month or week, like, and taking yourself in your diary. It says, like, you know that you get really stressed towards the end of the month, and you give yourself a treat, and it says in your diary, Sinner Novo. And you go to Sinner Novo, and you just rock up at Sinner Novo on a particular work day, and you make yourself not available the next couple of hours, and you just go see a movie. And that is still doing this, because you had to do it. You know, but now you are receiving. So now you're satisfying, because all the aspects connect to each other. And the more you try to use your brain to understand this, the harder it is to understand. These are concepts that you don't need to overthink. You just need to understand, and then you need to practically apply, because we're not using our head, our heart, or our gut to help us through the new reality. We are using the full Merkaba, the full egg. We work in all 32 aspects every single day, every single week. You can't just live in one part of yourself, because that's the old reality. And it will never work for you. You'll never be happy. You'll never get to that level where you can activate into a new reality body. So now we're kind of decoding doing. So doing's pretty easy. It's the easiest aspect to decode, because if you know that you got 1/4 of your time and of yourself for doing, then you can't get to a point where you're so obsessed with your work that there's no time for self. You know, you just can't get to a point like that, because doing is just 1 quadrant, and that's all of the doing. And if you spend all 8 quadrants in work, well, then what else are you going to do? Even going out and shopping is doing, because you have to fill your fridge, or going into your app, you know, or going and visiting someone, because we visit the sick, and we visit those who are suffering. It's still doing. If you're going to visit someone, you are doing that. You are doing. So doing is when I have to go and do something. And it doesn't have to be defined by earning money. Not all 8 aspects are earning money. There could be 1 or 2 aspects of earning money. And the more you master yourself, the more you align, the easier it is for you to earn that money, so simply that you got a lot of more space in your doing this. So you might start out where you're using 6 or 7 of the 8 aspects, you know, for your money earning. And as you go along, you'll get it down to 4. And then you'll have another 4 aspects. That means you'll have time in your day, every day, to just do something else that has got nothing to do with earning money. Because if your entire life is you earning money, then you're just a hamster running on a hamster wheel. Because you didn't design this hamster wheel. You were given the hamster wheel. You didn't choose a bond or rent. How else are you going to live? There's no other way. You didn't choose that you have to go shop. You would prefer to go out to your veggie garden, and you would prefer to get some food that way. You prefer to go to your chicken and get an egg, or go to your cow and milk and get some milk. And if you really want some meat, well, you take your gun or your bow and arrow and you go off into the forest. And there's so much meat there. You spot a deer, and you give thanks to that deer before you kill it. And you kill that deer and you take it home. But maybe while you're killing the deer, a bear is watching you, and a bear is going to come kill you or steal your deer. So you don't want to go hunting deer every day. You don't want to go do it by yourself, because you never know who's hunting you, because you're living. And that's like, we don't live that way anymore, but we used to live that way not a long time ago. People were living that way 1940. They weren't living like we live. But now we got eight aspects for doing. So we start out needing to use them, as many as possible, for earning. And we're so tired because our work takes so long. It either takes so many hours because you're on the time machine, or it's just so draining because you're on the money machine. So if you're chasing the time or you're chasing the money, regardless, it's the same thing. You are so tired at the end of that you've got no more energy for anything else, and you're totally finished. And when someone says to you, let's do something, you're like, I just can't, I'm dead. And you actually are dead. If that's how you're living your life, if all of your doing this is in the pursuit of money, all you're doing is feeding someone else's dream. Because that hamster wheel that you're running on is a cog in the machine, and all those cogs together are giving someone else a journey. Whether it's a government that you're giving a journey, whether it's a corporation you're giving a journey, whether it's an Illuminati, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, so that is, we're really understanding doing. Okay, now let's go from doing, let's pop through to the other side, to being. I can quieten myself down. I can pull myself into a nice space and take time just to quieten. Do it now. While you're doing it, sit back, go into your chair, sit back, just quieten down, quieten down. Pull the masters in, masters be with me, or God be with me, or whatever you work with your protection. In my case, it's masters be with me. Few breaths. This is being. This is wonderful being. My eyes are open. Can't see myself without my glasses, but my eyes are open and I am being. And I can feel the frequency. Maybe right now, if you've done this journey and you say, Masters be with me, maybe you'll feel what I'm feeling and what Deepak's feeling right now, which is this amazing sense of calm. This amazing, amazing sense of calm. You'll have to, and funny enough, what happens as we tap into the sense of calm, my silence on my phone is overridden. And the doing pulls me back in. Because, I'm in doing space. It's not space for being. See what happened there? And why did that happen? That happened to show us the difference, how subtle it is, and how I was in my being space. I was back here, and I was in a nice space. Now I'm not being anymore. I'm back in my doing. That phone call pulled me in. And it pulled me in. And I didn't even take the phone call, but it pulled me in, until I'm upfront and personal. And I'm right here, upfront and personal. And I'm in being. And that's why it's all so... guys, I'm going to have to just put this phone off. Give me a second.
So I'm glad you're mentioning that, because it is a bit of a gray area between being and doing. So okay, I get it. When you're meditating, you're being. When you're sleeping, you are being. Okay, but how about when you're doing yoga?
Yoga and being, you're not doing. When you're doing yoga, if you're doing yoga because you've gone with you doing yoga and you've like, wow, it's sexy at yoga. Look at everyone's wearing, and I've got this amazing sexy outfit. I'm going to get my like sexy outfit, my active wear. I'm going to go to yoga in my active wear, and I want to be looked at while I do my yoga. I'm so good. You're actually not being anymore. You've swapped out. But if you're doing yoga, as most of us do, and we close our eyes and we spend an hour just we being. And even though we're doing active asanas, you being. You're going for a walk. You might be active, but you're being. You're not doing anything. Going for a walk with your dog, you're just being. If you take the dog for a walk because someone said take the dog for a walk, your father, your mother, your partner, or you're a professional dog walker, and there are people out there who walk dogs for a living, then you're doing. So being is everything to do with the human condition, because we are not called human doings, but we've got lost. The hamster wheel taught us to be human doings, but in reality, we are what's called a human being. And human beings are very, very different to human doings. So the human does something and becomes a human doing. But the natural state of life is being. If I get home from a hard day's work and I have my dinner and I lie on my couch and I watch some mindless television, I'm being. Even eating my meal is being. Getting home and chatting to my family and chopping up the food and, I don't drink wine, but maybe having a glass of wine, I'll have a cup of tea. I'm being. But if I am now cooking a meal for friends who are coming over and I'm hosting because I'm throwing a party, you're not being anymore. Chefing and schmoozing is what I love to do. It's my favorite pastime. I invite friends over and I just chef and I schmooze. That is being. But the other night we had like a lot of people over. It was like an end of the year. We wanted to have a reciprocal party, and we had 30, 40 people over to our house. And that wasn't being, because I needed to host. I had people whose needs had to be met. And my job was to host, and I'm a great host. But that's not me being. I was busy loading dishwashers, and I was busy letting people in and out of my house, and I loved it. But I'm not fooling myself. And when that night ended, and it ended late, it ended at like 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 12:30, what did I do? I went and sat in front of the TV, and I was really tired, but I couldn't go to sleep without a bit of me time, because that wouldn't make sense. So I sat in front of the TV, and I put on some mindless TV on Netflix or Disney, whatever, and I watched some mindless TV, and I dozed off, and I woke up, and I dozed off, and I woke up, and at 1:30 I went to bed, and I had a marvelous sleep, because that's me the doer, me the beer. So being is really the human condition, and that's the human. So if you are a shepherd, and you're out there, and your job is to look after the sheep or the goats, like in the Bible, when you are a shepherd, you are not being. But when you're just going for a walk, and you're like, you're going for a walk because you're needing to, there's so much going on in your brain, and the best way to sort out stuff, because if you've got too much going on in your doingness, and you've got to go into your beingness, you often need something to switch you off, because it's so hard to switch off the mind from one aspect to another aspect, because we're not used to living life from all of us. We're used to living life either from our mind, our heart, or our gut. So you go for a walk. We go for a walk, and by going for a walk, we have this lovely walk, and by going for this walk, we move into a state of being. And that just, you come back from your walk, and you've left your doingness behind. And now you're in the other part. You're having a meal with your family. It's being. Even though you had to make food, it's still being, because you didn't do it as something you had to do. You're doing it because it's something you want to do and you need to do. So being, I'm waking up and I'm stretching in the morning. Before I start my day, I'm being. I make my watermelon juice because, I eat 80% fruit and veggies and I need to have sustenance. It's being. Blending it up, and you might think I'm not doing, I'm being. But now I come and sit I sit here at my computer for this podcast. I'm in doing. I'm clearly in doing. I'm not doing anything for self. What I'm doing now is I'm not doing it for personal return. I don't need this podcast. I don't need to hear myself. I don't particularly even want to hear myself, but I'm doing this because you need it. But I'm still doing. I'm not making any money from it. Deepak doesn't pay me. You're not paying me. Anyone who I help on the journey, I don't do it for self-return. I don't do it for anything. But I'm still doing. Still not being. So we understand that now. So should we move over to giving and receiving?
So I think before we go on to giving and receiving, that was very well explained, Myron. So thank you. So now I understand that it's really the intent behind the action that will determine whether it's a being or a doing. So you can see someone doing yoga, if they're doing it for themselves, for their just to feel better for themselves, then it's being. But if they're doing it for someone else, or they're doing it because they're trying to show someone, or so it's all around intent. So that action can be a being or a doing just based on your intent that you bring to that action. So that was really good to understand. Yeah. So let's go on to the giving and receiving, because I think this is easy for me, but maybe you're going to make it more complex.
Okay, so it's, back in the day, I had doing and being, and it could have even been 50-50. It could have been like, 16 aspects and 16 aspects. And recently I was on a beach recently, and I went for a walk down the beach, and it was in August, September, and this talk started. And while I was walking down the beach, I said, okay, let myself flow. And I spun, I spin quite well, and I spin. And when I spin, I'd spin like a Sufi, a wording dervish. When I spin, I get extremely high, because that's what it does. It disorientates you and gives you a moment. So, and it's lovely. And people should try that out and learn how to spin properly. If you want to, that's what so I spin and I breathe with a holotropic breath work. And we can also do a podcast on that another time. And what I did, I spun and I released aspects. And I wanted to hear their voices. And I released aspects, and the aspects came out. And it was crazy, because it was like a wild Myron popped out that had a voice. And it was the 32 voices of Myron. And it was the wild me that wants excitement. And it had its own voice. And it had its own conversation of what it wanted from me. And then I spun again. And then this meditative aspect popped out. And it had a voice. And it spoke with a different voice. And it had a totally contradictory conversation to the wild aspect. The wild aspect wanted me to go and engage and find some music and dance and get wild, and like meet people. And then this other aspect popped out, and it was like, no, we don't want to do that. We want to do something different, because, I was on vacation. I was by myself. I took my son on holiday. I had space, and I did an experiment. And then I spun some more. And it's very clear. It's very similar to what you did in your last podcast. And I spun some more. And another aspect came out, And this time it was this like sexual aspect. It was this part of me that was like, it was like this kind of animalistic aspect. And I don't let wild aspects run me. And I don't let meditative aspects run me. And I don't let sexual aspects run me. And I have one voice. And sometimes, yes, when you're with me and I've had a little cannabis, you'll hear that there's this like philosopher comes out. And my voice changes. I mean, Deepak, you've experienced that with me, you know, and these, as you get more adept at it, you get better and better, and those aspects get more and more refined, and they pop out quite easily. So it was after that, I was like, well, let's just kind of summarize it all. We don't really want to break it down. This is people's personal journeys. That or everything that is you. If you got like a voice in your head that is like a fantasy voice that says to you, let's say maybe you're in a marriage and you are monogamous, and you got a voice in your head that says, I think you got to be polyamorous. It doesn't mean you have to be polyamorous. That means multiple people you love. But it does mean that you got to allow the voice. You got to let yourself know that there's a part of you that is not getting satisfied. So you got to start that conversation with yourself. What does it mean? What does it mean? I'm not telling you all out there to go out and have affairs, but I'm saying to you, what does it mean? What does it mean? Like, why have I got? Because we've all got this animalistic part of us. In Judaism, we talk about the lowest soul and the highest soul. The neshama is the highest soul, and you've got this animal soul. And in Christianity, it's like, I think Catholicism is like this: watch out for your animal soul. Your animal soul is like bestiality, and all of that is a crock of shit. I'm not saying you don't have an animal part and an upper part. You have, that's not a crock of shit. But the fact that you judge your animal. We are animals. We are plants. We are no different to nature. So you need to allow all 32 voices to come out without defining them. And if the voice is loud enough, then you got to let the voice out through, because generally it's your emotions where your aspects play out. And the masters teach us, and Robin teaches us, that emotions are an energy in motion. And we use our emotional body. We use our emotions to act out things. So you don't need to do the things that your aspect might be telling your brain. You might have a part of you that you would call the devil that's whispering in your ear and telling you to do something or another. That is just the way you're seeing it. There's a part of you that's not satisfied. Go to satisfy that with your partner. No one's telling you that you have to go. You can't. Your brain is limited because you're the horse, and you don't know what's really going on inside. And maybe all that's being said to you is that you must awaken excitement. So we're using that polyamorous conversation. You don't know how to. So you've been married for X amount of years. You got the 7-year itch. You got the 12-year itch. You got the 24-year itch, whatever. And all of a sudden, you started to look at other people in a different way. And all of a sudden, you're so conflicted because you know it's wrong. It isn't really wrong. It's wrong when you've got it, when you're living in a duality reality. So before you go out and you mess up your life and mess up your marriage by getting other humans involved, you go back to your partner and say, let's spice up our life. Let's find some love. Maybe it's going to a sex shop together and buying some sex toys. Maybe it's buying your partner something that's part of your fantasy and playing out that fantasy. And you telling your partner what you want to do might just be what was needed to fulfill you. And you never really were looking for extramarital anything. You weren't really looking for polyamorous. When you felt something, your mind said the only way to satisfy this is an affair or polyamorous or get out of my marriage. But in reality, what's being said? What's being said is there's an aspect of yours that's either in your giving or you're receiving. And that aspect is coming alive, and the aspect's talking to you. But you're not used to it because that aspect has been shut down by society. And in Robin wrote these books, and it said there somewhere along the line, fulfill your fantasies to see your fantasies are not real. So you've got these fantasies, and the minute you fulfill them, you see they're not real. Like the fantasy, I want to be so rich, and you become so rich, and you see, I'm not happy. None of it's real. So what I'm explaining now through a metaphor is it would link to you, the giver, and you, the receiver. And you might want to, instead of going, your mind, something has come up with you, in you, the receiver, you want to receive some other type of loving that you've never had before. Or you, the giver, you want to try something you've never done before. You might have, I don't know, heard of a threesome or swinging, and you think that it's going to be amazing, but in reality, it's going to destroy your marriage. Destroy your marriage, and your marriage is not supposed to be destroyed because it's great. And but it's your fantasy that's doing it. So therefore, what you do is you channel that fantasy from, it's coming in there through you, let's say it's coming through what you want to receive. So what do? You channel it into what you're going to give. And you say, okay, this makes me feel exciting. Let's have a chat to my partner and let's go buy my partner something like some lingerie that's so sexy that I can, let's go buy some sex toys and let's have that conversation. And let's say, hey, we've been married for so long. It's so normal. In our life, it's so taboo because we're so conservative in South Africa, wherever we're living. But it's so normal for couples to spice up their life with sexy role-playing. And you can flirt, but you don't have to do things. And you can do it together. And you can spice up your life amazingly. And that's an example. So generally, when we receive on the left side. The left side is where we receive in most spiritual conversations. And most of us, when we start our spiritual journeys, we get really pigeonholed because it's the receiving where we don't receive enough. Because we come into spirituality and we're giving on the right. So the giving is your right hand and the receiving. So you're receiving with your left hand and you're giving with your right hand. And generally the quadrant on the left is the receiving, and then it's the opposite of the giving, and it works together. You, the receiver, and you, the giver. So if you're not receiving enough, then you got to work on receiving more. Maybe your family is taking you for granted. And maybe it's time for you to stand up and say, family, I'm the breadwinner, but no one is treating me with the respect that I need. So you call a family meeting, you say, no one ever phones me and says, how's my day going? And when I come home from work, everyone just, you, my partner, I come home from a hard day and you're not here for me. All you want to do is talk about stuff that I can't take anymore. My doing this is closed for the day. Let's make a time tomorrow. And I often get into conflict with the people who love me because I don't allow anybody ever to tell me what's going to happen now. I'm in charge of me. And I've been doing this for 20 years. So like if I've come home and I'm now in being and receiving, if you come to me to say, I need you in doing and giving, what do I say? No, no, no. Like Amy Winehouse. No, no, no. I'm not doing it. And I might shout, leave me alone. And why am I shouting? Because my energy in motion is saying shout. There I must shout. Because I've got an energy in motion. Doesn't mean I don't love you. Doesn't mean I don't want to do it in another time tomorrow. It means right now I need to be. And right now I need to receive. So if you want to come sit with me in my cave and give to me and sit with me and veg out and just watch television and talk about nothing important and help me receive, you're invited. But if you want to come sit here And you want to now watch what you want to watch, which is a reality show, and I need stupid, abject stuff to take my mind off stuff, then no. Then not. This is my time now, and I will take over this room, and it's mine, my cave, right now. And that is a prime lesson in giving and receiving. And you see, originally I wanted to take all 32 aspects and name them. And then I realized after I did that, and I actually wrote it out for you, Deepak. I even logged them. I even logged all 32. I logged it, and then I realized like, that is not it, man. That is, it's not like that. It just isn't like that. That's too much mind. You cannot use your mind. You cannot use your heart. You cannot use your gut to get into the new reality. You have to use all of you. You have to use the light in the middle and all 32 aspects. That is what you're going to use. And you're going to make time every single, let's call it a week, day, week, month, for all of you. You have to make time for all of you every single day. Because if you don't put in that vital time for being, on that day, then it might affect tomorrow's doing. Because you might wake up tomorrow in resentment. And it might be a Friday night and you've come home and you're exhausted and you need 2 hours for you, and that's all you need. And you come home late, you come home at 7 or 8, and that 2 hours will take you to 10. Then you're going to go to sleep. You're going to wake up at 8 o'clock the next morning. You're going to say to your partner, darling, I love you. What do you want to do today? My whole Saturday morning is free. What do you want to talk about? You want to do a budget? Let's do a budget. That's doing. You want to go look at something. You want me to come with you and Christmas shop? It's doing. You want to go for lunch and talk? It's doing. And then you come home at 2 o'clock on Saturday and you say, love, thank you so much. The rugby's about to start. And you go and you make yourself some popcorn and you get yourself some tea. And you sit on the couch and you call your kid in, maybe your son who wants to watch rugby with you, or maybe you're a woman who wants to watch something else and you call your daughter, or it doesn't make a difference, it's not be sexist. And you just spend some time being and enjoying the sports match, and now you've had being. Now that Saturday you had time for being and you had time for doing. Now it's like 4 o'clock and you look at the time and it's time to go visit a sick relative, an old relative, someone you know who's been through some trauma. So you're going to go there. Now it's time for some more doing, because you're going to go there. And now you're going to go and visit that sick relative. And you're going to be there for a couple of hours. Then you're going to, then you're going to come home. And now you're going to say to your partner, what do you want to do? Let's do something together. Do you want to go out? Do you feel like going and, there's this cool place, there's this cool bar with the DJs playing. It's cool. Let's go there. Let's go hang out. And you go there and you combine doing and being. Because you sit and you relax and you find a nice chair, and you have a drink and you relax and you start to be. And then you jump up because someone says, hey, come dance. The new DJ started, and you go off and you're doing, and you're giving and receiving. When you're sitting on the chair and enjoying your drink, you're receiving. And someone comes to chat to you, they see you there alone and they're one of your friends, and you're receiving, and they start to tell you stuff and you're receiving. And then you go off and you do, you give. Because your partner's like, hey, let's go dance. Your partner loves dancing. And so it's all merges in and out of itself. And that Saturday is a day of freedom. It's the day where you can combine doing and being. It's easy on a Saturday. But now you wake up on Monday morning. And when you wake up on Monday morning, you're waking up in a day where you have to do. And you get up, you have to do, and the first thing you do is you start doing. And then you go to work, and you It's Monday, and you make lists and you work it all out. But while you're at work, you start, like what I do every Monday is I make a list, and on that list it says doing personal, doing work, being, and then I write it down, and every Monday I go look and I write down everything that needs to happen. Doing personal, got to do this thing, I've got to do my taxes. Doing work, I've got to make a couple of calls. Being, shit, I haven't been to a movie for so long, go see a movie, or whatever, go for a walk in the forest. So it all interlinks, and that's why I've done it so broadly. You, the doer, you, the beer, you, the giver, the receiver, and you, the giver. And you see, every time I do this, you see, I keep doing it in a way that it's like that, because that's what it's about. It's like it's interlinking. There's a circle there, and that circle then comes back into a circle there, and there's a circle there, and that comes back into a circle there. It flows, and it flows into each other, and life is a flow. Doing, being, giving, receiving. It's this whole thing. I am now doing, but I am receiving as well, because this is my karma. My karma is to help you on your journey. And as you go on your journey and come awake, I will receive. So as I do and I give, I receive outside of time and space, because remember, we are limited as the horse by time and space, but within the master realm, there's no limitations. So right now, I am giving, and right now, I am doing. And then later on, I will receive. I will receive so much that will help me be. Because when I get home at the end of the day and I'm so tired from giving so much and doing so much, all of a sudden I get this sense of feeling of love overwhelms my body, and I sit on my couch and I watch mindless TV and I feel my body floating, and I get the sense of, oh my God, I am so lucky to be alive. And that is kind of sums it up for you, and it's easier to fathom. And therefore, don't use your mind, don't use your heart, don't use your gut to find your way through the new reality. Use all of you. Use all of you. Use all 32 aspects. You are a multidimensional being with the ability to analyze and think, with the ability to feel, and the ability to have that gut that tells you when something's right and something's wrong. Use all of you. Don't just be a spiritualist and be so poverty, in such poverty consciousness. Don't just be a human doing and forget about your being and forget about your spirituality and everything is work. Don't just give and give and give until you're an empty vessel and everyone walks on you like a mat. You the provider to the family, but yet you are a mat, and your name's not even Matt. Don't just receive so much that you're just such a taker, that all you're doing is taking and taking and taking, because you're receiving so much. Because everyone just gives to you and you just take and take and take. So there you got it. Be a fully dimensional human on the rock, a human being in a life experience that requires you to do. Be a human that receives graciously. Be a human that gives more than you need to, because you've got so much to share and give. All you got to do is, when you drive out of your house and you come across the first traffic light and there's someone there who's begging, and maybe it's a lady with a child that's not even hers, and you want to open the window and say, you know what, that is wrong. Get that child off the street, lady. And that is you giving. You telling that lady what to do. You're giving of yourself. Or maybe there's, you get to the next traffic light and there's a poor guy and you don't give him any money, you just give him respect. You say, I'm terribly sorry, I've got nothing now. You go to the petrol station, and instead of you filling up some petrol, and instead of being on your phone and you're so busy, you don't even acknowledge the guy. Hi, how are you? How's your day? He doesn't need your $5 or your $10. He needs your love. He needs acknowledgement that he's a human. He might be doing a mundane job of filling your car with petrol, but he's gifting you his time or her time. And then you just can say, wow, you like just so blasé. You never say thank you. You never say please. You're just out there on your own journey. That isn't cool. So give. Give of yourself and you will receive. You will see this. You got a waiter who comes to your table and you say, thank you so much for that wonderful meal, sir. And no one calls the waiter sir. The waiter calls you sir. Thank you so much, madam, for that lovely, lovely meal. It was amazing, And all of a sudden, by edifying a car attendant or a waiter, you're giving so much and you will receive so much because their heart will open up and you'll be blessed. And that blessing is a gilded life. You have the opportunity of living a life that you could never believe is possible. It will be better than anything you could imagine. Because, what you think is God's joke. What you plan is God's joke. But you have an opportunity right in front of you. But you must start the journey. And I think we've kind of covered. Do you have any questions around us, sir?
So we have come to the end of our podcast, but it has clarified a lot of things for me, and it really is around intent when you are taking an action. The intent can determine whether it's a doing or a being, and also your intent can also affect whether it's a giving or receiving. Are you giving something of yourself or your energy to someone else, or are you taking someone's energy or time? So I can see that they're all sort of interrelated. When we spoke about the 4 quadrants and the 32 aspects, I thought we had to apply and give equal amount of hours to each thing. So for example, in a 24-hour day, I would be giving 6 hours to doing and 6 hours to being and 6 hours to giving and 6 hours to receiving. That's sort of what I thought, coming into this podcast before having this discussion. But it sounds like it's actually nothing to do with time. It's actually to do with the energy that you are applying through your intention to the actions. And that needs to be balanced. It's not a time thing at all. It's more about an energy thing, right?
That's exactly it. It's not time driven. It's not about, I need to give so much time. It's about being conscious that you are not a human being, that you're a human being. Being conscious that we are designed to be empathetic. We're designed to feel. We're designed to be sympathetic. We're designed, and we need to realize that in our modern day rushed life, it's just too much. So therefore, the only way to do it is to take control through intention, through wisdom, through knowledge, and not too much mind, not too much heart, and not too much gut, but rather through experience. Because the more we experience, the more we can be. And experience leads us to truth. Because in the master frequency we learn, we've been told, there's no truth without experience. If you can't experience something, it's not truth. You experience it, you can find truth. And we're told, and that we've explained to us that light is a frequency, and that light is a code, and light carries the code. And manifestation is a journey, and life is a journey. And as long as you have learned how to realize that you are so loved, that you are so looked after, you never have to worry about anything. You will always be held. Whatever happens to you, you'll be held. then it's so much easier to step out into the yellow brick road and to use your body, not your mind, not your heart, not your gut to make decisions, but all of you needs to be allowed. And to know that you can't just be all together one thing. You have to put energy into all of yourself all the time. Otherwise, you just will not live the gilded, enlightened life that's available in the new reality. And many years ago, it was very hard to move into to this way of living, but now it's easy. Now you come awake like that. You're coming awake now, and you are the one that are awakening to your journey. But then you need the support. And that's where the masters come in. We call in the masters. Masters, be with me. We call in the masters. We get the frequency. We feel the frequency. We know when the frequency is with us and when it's not with us. We know when we can communicate and when we can't communicate. And we know how to access help. And to know we're not alone. We are together as a tribe of seekers who've come awake. We are going to live together in a new reality that's going to be so beautiful. And we know that we are surrounded by love. Love from the masters. Love from the light beings. Love, just so much love. And unfortunately, the love plays out. And as the old reality ends, we are going to, there's tragedies around us and there's end of times, and it's very, very difficult. But we know that it's love that is the way. And that is the master way. And the masters are here to help us move into the Aquarian age, into the love reality. Not with our mind, not led by our mind, not led by our heart, not led by our gut, but led by all of us, all of the parts of you, all of the quadrants, all 32 aspects. And you don't have to name them, but if they pop out, you're welcome. Often people think that all these voices in their head, they think they're schizophrenic. You're not. It's normal to have different voices. Doesn't mean just because you got a voice that's yabba, 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 you have to do it. But you have to allow it. Allow the conversation. Otherwise, you're blocking something that wants to come through. And because you're thinking something or feeling something, what you think is not real. What you feel is not real. What you intuit is not real. What is real is how you deal with the aspects and how it merges and what you want in this life. That is real.
That was very insightful. I hope our viewers have understood what Myron's wisdom was enlightening you today, because for me this was quite deep. I had a lot of questions that have been clarified. I'm going to try this, approach of giving to all my aspects, because I've got some aspects of me. I mean, Myron was talking about the wild man. I've got a lot of wild man in me. I could go crazy and wild, and that's a part of me that needs to be respected and needs to be acknowledged. Otherwise, he can feel very disrespected, right, and cause more havoc. So I really like that aspect, and how you don't have to do what the wild man wants, but you just allow him to communicate. You hear him out, and you can find something that's more practical for your life. You don't go do an affair, but you maybe recreate that in your own marriage, that type of thing. So that was really good to understand your aspects, and you don't have to act out or do your aspects, but you can find ways to satisfy those aspects of yourself in a more calm and an appropriate way. So that was very insightful. I hope the viewers have learned. But Myron, we have come to the end of our show today, and we are looking forward to the next one. Are you going to tell us what we're talking about in the next podcast?
I'm thinking now that what the next conversation we're going to talk about, I think is going to be on this the righteous journey, the gilded path. I think we're going to help people understand, because so many people get so stuck, they don't know how to live because they stuck in guilt of the old. There's the new coming in, and they don't know how to live. And I think what we're going to talk about next is what sets your path. And I think that's going to be quite deep, because we're going to have to, because we're getting really into the meat of it all. and it's like, we got that Merkaba that going around the sun, spinning, and it's like, what is okay? What is not okay? How do we live this gilded golden life? How do we live this wonderful life? And I think all any of us want on the rock is we want peace, we want inner peace, we want enough to have all of our needs met. We want to have some of our wants met, and we just want love, and we want to love, we want to be loved, we want to feel, and we want to be free. And I think that's important. I think that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, and that's going to kind of coincide with my program, which is The Road Less Traveled, which is where we've spoken about the medical side, the wellness side of my program that leads you to living your life in a new way, where you ultimately are coming awake. And the reason you are with me on this journey is so you can come awake and find the thing that is here for you. And I think we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about these steps that you can take and how to navigate all of this and how to navigate the fear of the old reality and utilizing that to show you how to live in the new, because it's so difficult, because we have, like you spoke about the wild man. If you let out your wild man, how do you let out your wild man in a safe way? But there are ways and there are means, and how do you do it? And how do you let that part of you out? And when do you let it out? And will that, if you let out that wild part of you, will it destroy another part of your aspect? And how do you make sure that you don't bring down your house of cards? How do you make sure that you build foundations that are solid, and then you build brick houses on those foundations, and then you automate your house with beautiful energy that is self-sufficient? And that's what we're going to talk about. Maybe we're going to talk about the house that you are going to build, the beautiful life that you are going to build. So I think that's kind of where we're going to go. So I think in our next conversation, we're going to jump into that. We're going to jump into, and this is the road less traveled, because there's not a lot of people traveling this road. Most of us are being led by our nose. We're either being led by religion, or we're being led by money, the religion of money, greed, or we're being led. So most of us are being led by our nose, and that's really, we have to change. We have to go. We are basically on a journey, like a planet around the sun. We are spinning. We are designed to live beautiful, gilded, golden lives, but we are so afraid to rock the boat. We're so afraid to rock the boat. What happens if I disturb my comfortable, complacent life? Your comfortable, complacent life won't serve you anymore if you are activating into this brand new body. If you want to live in a new reality with a new active body, if you want to be able to participate, if you want to find what it is that is you, then you need to realize you need to go on the road less traveled. And it's a journey. It's a beautiful journey. It's a yellow brick road. It's your yellow brick road. And you are the one, like a Dr. Zeal's book, you are the one going to go on that journey. And it's going to be full of humor. It's going to be full of love. It's going to be full of light. But most of all, it's going to be full of you. Namaste, people. Beautiful. Thank you, Deepak. It's been awesome. Once again, keep on the good work. Keep the comedy going. And we'll see you at the green side, and the rest of you out there. Just keep on doing the good work. We got you. You need help. Reach out. We're here for you. And namaste. Have a marvelous festive season. If it's Christmas you're doing, have a marvelous Christmas. If it's Hanukkah, have a marvelous Hanukkah. If it's festivals of light, if it's, from all the multi-faith. And I think my message to everyone out there is love, peace, tolerance. Love, peace, tolerance. We need to love each other more. We need to put our peace more in our homes and outside, and we need to be tolerant. We have to be more tolerant of each other. Love, peace, tolerance. And that should be the mantra. We should all be out there going, love, peace, tolerance, love, peace, tolerance. And the fact that we're still fighting, we have wars and death and mayhem, and the fact that we still got people armed robberies and tragedy and all the stuff happening. It's wrong. And we have to come awake. And we need to preach love, peace, tolerance, but more than preach, live it. Live it, live it, live it. Live it and love it. Namaste. We got you. Thank you, Deepak.
On that note, guys, till next time, ciao for now.